Welcome back to the third tutorial, guys. So this is where we stopped in the previous one, right? So let's go ahead and make a new file. In this tutorial what we are going to do is we'll make a simple basic calculator application. Okay, so we'll take two inputs, two numbers from the user, we'll add them, we'll subtract them, and maybe multiply, divide and all. Okay, so let's get the basic syntax in place. IOStream using namespace std main. Okay, so now to define the two numbers which we will be using, we use int a comma b. Okay, so what int represents is a data type. Okay, there are five basic data types in C++. One is int, then there's float, double, char, and void, right? So these are the basic predefined data types. There are few others which I'll tell you in due course. So int is integer, float is floating point. Now what floating point actually means is decimal values. Double is double precision, which is for numbers having the having 10 to the power something. It might be the size of the galaxy or size of an atom. Those numbers, the very huge and very small numbers. Okay, character stands for char stands for characters, and void stands for, basically void stands for nothing actually. So if you do not want your code to do anything, you use void. We'll use it in certain functions, not we cannot declare variables of this type. Okay, I'll tell you what functions are in the upcoming tutorials. Okay, so for now these are the five basic data types, and in this one we'll be using integer. Okay, now again we'll ask the user for their values. So enter two numbers, good enough. C in A and B. Okay, so I told you what cout does, right? So cin is basically the opposite of cout. Whatever value the user enters through the keyboard is taken from the screen and it's stored in A. Alright, similarly it's stored in B. Now instead of this we can also write it like this, C in A, C in B, but that basically does not look good. Okay, why to waste another line when we can do it in a single line? So when we do it in a single line, this particular syntax, it is called concatenation. Just a theoretical word, has nothing to do with the code. Okay, so now we have our two numbers. We'll display the sum. Now just to make the output a bit more appropriate, I'll be using endl. What endl stands for is end of line. Okay, so what it basically does is it moves the cursor to the next line. Okay, endl, and we'll say the sum is, and again a plus b, just like that. Okay, so that's a basic sum displaying program. Let's see if it actually runs. It will first ask us to save. I'll just save it as calculator. Maybe you save it whatever you want. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, enter two numbers, 3 and 6, and the sum is 9. Cool, but you get to choose what you want in a calculator, right? You can choose if you want to add or you want to subtract or something. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to make that. Okay, now before taking two numbers, what I am going to ask the user is, I'll tell them to enter your choice. All right, so we'll just display a few things in the choice, and L one for add slash n. Now slash n is another alternative to endl. All right, does the same thing. And 2 is subtract. You can go ahead and type multiply and divide if you wish. So I'll need to read the choice, then depending on the choice we'll choose what to do. So choice. Now I need another variable here called choice, right? Because we need to store the one or two whichever the user enters in a in choice. Okay, so now we'll need two numbers. Okay, so let that code be as it is. Now let's go ahead and choose what we want to do. Okay, so for choosing something, what we need is, what we basically say is, if the user enters 1, add them. If the user enters 2, subtract them, else don't do anything. All right, so that's what we do in C++. All right, if choice is 1, display this. Else if choice is 2, see out the difference. Difference is a minus b. All right, else if choice is neither of the two, we'll just say maybe invalid choice or something. Okay, so this is basically called if else ladder. Okay, if you can have multiple conditions, if else if choice is 2, else if choice is 3, multiply, else if choice is 4, divide, else if it is nothing of that, just print something ki you have not entered the correct choice. Okay, so let me quickly tell you a bit about if else. Okay, so if again the syntax is, if the condition in the brackets and the statement following it. Okay, so if you want multiple statements here, if you want to see out the sum as well as something else, so what you can do is you can go ahead and cover all of them in a block, right? So this opening and this closing, because just remember one thing, if you do not have these blocks, only the statement following the if will be a part of that if statement. All right, so if I don't enter these blocks here and I uh, print something else here, it will probably not be executed because it is not a part of that if. All right, unless I put them all in these brackets. Okay, yeah, one more thing. What if I want to do multiple things if choice is 1? I can have another statement here, like if choice 2 or something is 4, then do something else. So what I'm basically mean here is that you can have if else inside else also. You can have wherever you want. All right, just make sure you have one if and one else for it. Okay, so if you want to have else, you need to have if. Okay, you can have if alone, but if you obviously if you want else, you will need to have an if before that. Okay, now before ending this tutorial, I'll tell you a bit about the comments. All right, so what comments are basically is just for writing some stuff in your code, so that when I check out the code, I don't forget what a particular line actually does. So I'll just comments are made using double slash or slash star and again star slash combo. All right, so double slash is for the single line comments and the star slash one is if you want to cover multiple lines. I can just write to add, then I can go down here and I can write to subtract, and also that when if at a later point of time I need to come back and check what particular part of the code actually does, I don't need to worry about it because I have already made a note for myself. Okay, and now you might be thinking that these comments are useless because I don't need to remember how to add. If I it's a single line, I can anywhere anytime guess it, right? But let me tell you one cool little trick. Okay, you do not necessarily need to add comments only for reminding yourself, though it is preferable if you do that, but it's not compulsory. So the another way of using comments is using debug for debugging. Okay, so if a particular part of your program is not functioning properly and you know the other part is functioning, so what you can do is you can just go ahead and you can, you can just skip this part of the code and check if this one is working properly. You get it? So that I know this is working fine, but there's some problem with this one, so it reduces the amount of code which I need to focus on. All right, so that's how comments can alternatively be used, and mostly people use comments only for this. No one uses them for writing and making notes or something. Okay, so that's about it for this tutorial, guys. In the next one, I'll tell you about the switch case. We'll make the same program again using a switch case, because for programs like this which have many choices, the if else is not the best way of doing it. Okay, if else is for those cases where conditions are less. Okay, but suppose if I have, in actual calculator, if you see, there are maybe 15-16 operations including sine, cos, tan and all. So I am not going to write if else, if else, if else, if else, if else, if. Alright, there's another much cleaner, much simpler way to do it, which I'll tell you guys in the next one. Just try, make sure you try out if else. I have included a few sample programs in the document attached. Make sure you do all of them. I haven't given the answers to them yet. I'll give you that in the next one. So go ahead, try all of them out, mess around a little bit, and I'll see you guys in the next one.